Time now for Grace's News.
Hello, Howard. So you were reading the tweets about the knife fight, and I just wanted to let you know that there was another tweet by Ben Crump, who's a civil rights attorney. He was involved in the George Floyd case, and this is what he wrote. He said, "As we breathed a collective sigh of relief today, a community in Columbus felt the sting of another police shooting as Columbus police killed an unarmed 15-year-old named Micaiah Bryant. Another child lost, another hashtag." Now, there's several layers to this story because you want to know something amazing, Howie.
What?
Don't let this destroy your faith in the integrity of the gray lady, okay? But they wrote a piece on this, and they edited his tweet to say this. "As we breathed a collective sigh of relief today, a community in Columbus felt the sting of another police shooting. Another child lost, another hashtag." So following online criticism, the Times updated the piece to state, "In the tweet sent before the footage was released, Mr. Crump incorrectly described her as unarmed." So there's just so many layers of deception here.
At what point does the New York Times apologize? Somebody wrote a column about that. After these massive mistakes about the bounties that the Russians were putting out, said Trump knew about them. There weren't any bounties. And now they made up the whole story about Sicknick being first beaten to death with a fire extinguisher, and then his fatal heart attack or stroke was caused by being sprayed with bear spray by Trump people. All lies. And then they come right out of the box, two huge whoppers in 1 week, and they come out of the box editing something to make the guy look like less of a fool.
Exactly. And then people wonder, why hasn't he taken down the tweet, or why doesn't he issue a correction? It's like, well, if the New York Times is parroting what he said and they don't feel the need to issue a correction, then why should he?
You know, the other thing, too, is some people are saying, well, it's just a knife. Just a knife. I mean, where did she buy this knife? Did she buy it at the Columbus, Ohio equivalent of Jack's Joke Shop? Is it one of those rubber knives you take to a Halloween party? I don't think so. It didn't look like one of those. Looked like a pretty nasty knife to me.
Well, Howie, I think it kind of goes back to what you used to say about carjackings or robberies.
Right.
Is, it's a minor crime. It's not a minor crime when it happens to you.
Like a burglary. Same with a burglary. Yeah.
It might be just a knife, but if someone's waving one in your face, it quickly becomes a dangerous weapon. Right.
And I repeat what I said earlier. There are no such thing, or there are very few things as knife fights. Usually there's one knife and two people, and one person has a knife and the other person has a lot of holes in them. Unless there's a cop, thank God.
Do they take turns? Do they switch off?
Not as far. Not again. I've only seen one in my life, Taylor, and I didn't want to ever see another one. And here, all these years later, I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was some bucket of blood on Essex Street, right around the corner from the beginning, on the edge of the combat zone, I guess you could say.
I think one of the craziest things, just because we're still on this topic about people reacting to this, was the ACLU. They wrote, "The systems that allowed George Floyd to be murdered remained fully intact. Moments after we celebrated a win for police accountability in Minneapolis, news broke that Columbus police murdered a 15-year-old black girl." Yeah, murdered.
The ACLU said that? Murdered?
Yeah, yes, it's the ACLU. It's the one in Ohio specifically, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's that branch, but yeah. Isn't that crazy? And nobody cares. I know you already read the Kathy Griffin one, but and then here's another one, Howie, from another grassroots activist, blue check mark on Twitter. This one seemed to be getting a lot of play. Teenagers have been having Teenagers have been having fights, including fights involving knives, for eons.
You're a jet all the way from.
We do not need police to address these situations by showing up to the scene and using a weapon against one of the teenagers. Y'all need help. I mean that sincerely.
So let's say, he pulled back and didn't shoot her, and she had come down with the knife and killed the other woman. Would they have said, "You didn't protect a black teenager from being stabbed"? Because that's systemic racism. I mean, was there any way the guy could win? We talk about this before, but, cops are in lose-lose situations here. Whatever he did was going to be wrong. And he's going to be criticized by nitwits like Brian Williams and Kathy Griffin.
No, you're absolutely right, Howie. And it makes you kind of wonder, how long are we going to go until people just start saying, I'm not going to be a cop. I don't want to be. I mean, if you had a young son who wanted to be a police officer right now, I wouldn't encourage it. And I hate saying that because it's a very honorable profession, but it's not something that I envy people who have that responsibility, because you're under a microscope. No one has your back, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah, and and again, this guy that was shot in Pasquotank County, North Carolina today. He's already like a household word in the New York Post. Andrew Brown is his name. They had a search warrant for his house. Do you think they had a search warrant because they didn't have a good reason to be going into his house? And the guy today in Worcester. I mean, when is it's only a matter of time, Grace, until someone's going to say, shouldn't the police have known that the bomb he was carrying was a fake bomb?
Well, one thing I thought was kind of crazy, and it's almost as if we're watching how far the media will go with this, because the mother of Ma'Khia Bryant was on camera saying that she's a very motherly person and she's very peaceful by nature, and all of these words that I'm thinking, I just watched a video of her running out of the house with a massive knife.
Right.
And the media just, nods along, they don't, no pushback.
And she's in foster care. So obviously there was some sort of dysfunction in her family. I don't know whose dysfunction it was, but it was not a Ozzie and Harriet household. Okay. She's in foster care.
Howie, I thought there was one person, and then I'm going to move on from this story because I want to go back to the New York Times here, unfortunately, for a minute. But I thought one person put this really well. Their name was Zaid Jalani. And they wrote, the Ma'Khia Bryant case is an encapsulation of the media and political class's pathologies. Had she simply stabbed the other girl to death, it would never have been a national news story. Activists wouldn't have complained. Grieving family members would have been ignored. I thought that's really true. I see stories every single day about this week, a 7-year-old was shot, I think in Chicago.
Right.
There's so many stories like that.
Drive-through waiting for a McDonald's.
And they don't get more than a quick glance and a move along. It's really despicable. And I think the media is just exposing themselves yet again. But you asked, Howie, at the New York Times if they're ever going to apologize.
Yes.
And I just wanted to let you know that they have bigger fish to fry. Okay. New York Times journalists want the company to bring in gender neutral bathrooms.
Yes.
And to retroactively revise the bylines of transgender journalists who have changed their names.
Right. I read that. Yes, they are balking at having gender neutral bathrooms on every floor, and then they want. So let's say somebody like that guy Don McNeil. Not that he's doing this, but he was a reporter before he got fired for using the N-word. He was a reporter for 40 years. So if he wanted to change his gender, his sex, he wanted to go trans, the union at the New York Times wants the Times to go back into the database and change his byline on every one of the thousands of stories that he wrote over the last 40 years.
It's so insane.
And the New York Times responded, we believe if we did that, it would be fraught. That was the word, fraught with problems. And the union responded, well, it's fraught with problems if you don't recognize the reality of these people's existence.
I read a lot of pieces over this last year and about transgender rights and things like that. And one story, there was a woman and she was talking about how because she hasn't had to go out to restaurants and correct people on her pronouns, she has lost her sense of identity because her whole identity was telling people that they were calling her by the wrong pronoun. And I thought, how sad is that?
Hey, here's a quarter. Call Dr. Fauci. It's not my problem. I didn't do it to you.
Well, it's also interesting about the bylines, Howie, because I know you're a guy, so you've never had to do this, but I always think about when women change their names when they get married, and a lot of people keep their professional names because it's easier for people to find your past work, and they can just do a quick Google search and everything comes up. And I'm thinking, how hard would it be for someone to find your name if it was a whole different name, like it was a whole different gender, and you said, oh, I read a piece once by so-and-so, and then the entire bylines changed?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many problems that it would create, and you just know that once you open the door, and again, this is something they when the NRA says the reason we're opposed to gun control legislation is because once you open the door, they keep asking for more. But obviously, the bylines would just be the beginning of what they'd be asking for. And I can't. And I'm not even capable with my small imagination of figuring out what they would want next. But it would be something even more outrageous, wouldn't it?
Yes, and Howie, that makes me think of this morning. My dad sent me a text, and we were just talking about all of the craziness going on right now. And he said, one thing I can tell for certain is that this appeasement is not working. Like, we keep trying to make the radical left happy, and nothing is doing the trick. They just want more and more and more, and they're just getting crazier and crazier. By the way, Howie, I know a lot of times you talk about how the coronavirus is really perceptive. Like, it knows what time of night to come out. It knows if you've been sitting for too long in a restaurant.
Everything is negotiable, too. Everything is negotiable.
Well, I have a perfect example of that. Are you ready for how smart this virus is?
Yes.
Celebrities will not have to wear masks at the Oscars while the cameras are on, but they will need to wear them during commercial breaks.
I saw that story, Grace, and you know what I was wondering? If I should decide, which I won't, to watch it at home, do I have to wear a mask while I'm watching it from my couch at home?
Only during the break.
I think if you want to show solidarity with Tom Hanks and the other beautiful people, you would wear your mask. And maybe take a picture of yourself wearing it so people know. Post it online. But I love the comments beneath this. People said, I can't wait to not watch this show. And another person said, smartest virus ever. It knows it can only attack during the commercials.
Yeah. Monday headline, Oscar ratings lowest yet. Semicolon. Virus blamed. Viewers flee virus threat.
Another person says, wow, that's so polite of the virus to give them immunity while on camera. Yeah, I think a standing headline is going to be, lowest ratings ever.
I think the virus should win an Oscar.
Hey, it's quite the performer.
That's supporting virus.
The motion picture industry has been around in one form or another for 120 plus years. And the virus has almost destroyed it single-handedly, except for Godzilla King Kong.
Yeah, but these award shows, I have to say, I know they always blame the coronavirus, but, they got to give themselves some credit, too. They are pretty insufferable no matter what.
They are. All right, Grace, thank you very much. And
thanks, Howard.
Good job with the reading the Karens today, and we'll come back with some more of that a little bit later in the show.
Howie, I think people are really missing Masterpiece Theater because I got a lot of a pouring of support over that.
I've got some more Masterpiece Theater in the works. Do you want to talk about the woman on Martha's Vineyard whose life who was extremely distraught because the gay porn movies were shot in her house and she didn't know it?
Oh, wait, I remember that.
I have like 40, 50 pages of public depositions that she's given.
Scripts to these movies?
I've got I have the script of her responses.
Wait, was this pre-COVID?
Yes, it was pre-COVID, but now the case is finally coming to trial, and we finally got all of her depositions and exhibits.
Hey, Howie, you know what's funny? My parents rent out a beach house every summer, and they rent it to different people. And one year when we weren't there, these people held a wedding at our house, and they got married at our house and had their family. And our neighbors were calling us, and they're like, "Who's getting married?" And my parents were like, "What? Huh?" And we felt like that was a little weird that they didn't give us a heads up, let alone if someone's shooting a porn in your house.
Well, I'll start looking around. I may do a column in the next couple of days about it. I'll start looking around for some stuff that you could do.
Oh, good. Golly gee, I'm so excited.
You asked for it, Grace. I'm looking. I'm scouting. I'm looking for scripts.
No,
I'm your producer here. All right. Okay.
Thanks, Howie.
We'll be right back. I'm Howie Carr.
He doesn't do this just for the money.
It's also my pleasure to see to it that decent, hard-working people in this community aren't robbed blind by a pack of money-mad pirates just because they haven't anybody to look after their interests.
Howie Carr. We'll be right back.